A very good morning to you, Mr. Niehaus. Thank you so much for making the time. Your thoughts about the assertions of Mr. General Nyanda that the MKMVA was always part of the problem in the state capture narrative, and also that you are illegitimate.
Well, thank you, first of all, for having me. I have listened quite attentively to what General Nyanda said, and I must tell you that I fundamentally disagree with him. One of the interesting things that he said was that MK National Council was formed when Umkhonto weSizwe Military Veterans Association already existed. So by implication, General Nyanda indicated that the MK National Council was created as a parallel structure when there was already a well-established and well-functioning structure servicing the ex-combatants of Umkhonto weSizwe. So this is the first problem, a problem of a parallel structure. The second problem that we are faced with are these wild allegations of Umkhonto weSizwe Military Veterans Association having been involved in state capture. No such evidence had ever been produced. And General Nyanda knows that part of the reason why there had been a breakdown in 2017 when there was an attempt to bring all the members of Umkhonto weSizwe together were exactly because of these kind of wild allegations that were very much in the context of a factional approach and supporting a particular faction within the African National Congress from the MK National Council. So he must be very careful to say that we acted in a wrong or illegitimate way. They have created that parallel, separate structure. They came in disrupting the work that Umkhonto weSizwe Military Veterans Association was already doing. Now, despite this history, and despite the fact that they acted in this factional way, when the discussion took place about unity at the African National Congress's 54th National Conference in 2017, we as MKMVA said that we will accept the resolution of the National Conference of the ANC that we must work towards unity for all MK veterans. So that was our commitment. And we immediately after the conference proceeded to participate in a process to work towards that unity. And that process is known as the Sixth Side, which was under the auspices of the Peace and Stability Committee, chaired, and I must say very capably chaired, by Comrade Tony Ngeni. We continued with that process to the point where we came very close to having the MK Unitary Conference to be held just shortly before the COVID-19 pandemic broke out. Unfortunately, that disrupted the process. But something else happened.
Yeah.
And this is where I have a very serious concern. The MK National Council during this period decided to unilaterally and abruptly withdraw from that process while we as Umkhonto weSizwe Military Veterans Association continued to, in a very disciplined manner, proceed with that process, work on all the issues that the national officials of the African National Congress instructed us to do in order to get to the point
Niehaus,
of a unitary conference.
If one reads the room, you are nowhere near agreement. What do you envisage will be the success rate of these latest efforts to bring the two formations together?
I've just described to you the process that we have consistently participated in. And that process had reached the point where we can have a unitary conference in time now. The only reason why there has been a disruption of this process has been because of the indisciplined behavior of MK National Council and the manner in which they withdrew from the process. Now, we have requested the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress, and specifically the national office bearers, to provide us with a report of the Peace and Stability Committee dealing with the success that we've reached up to this point to come close to having the unitary conference. We've been shocked. Instead of receiving that report, which we've requested, and having a meeting with the national office bearers and with the National Working Committee, to have been told by the Deputy Secretary General of the African National Congress, Comrade Jesse Duarte, that there was apparently a decision taken that MKMVA should be disbanded and that there will now be a 9-member committee appointed to do the preparatory work for the conference. This is a drastic deviation away from the process that we have been participating in. And this we really want your listeners and the whole of South Africa to understand.
Yeah.
We have been ambushed by a very strange decision where we have not received information why that decision was taken. And this decision was yesterday conveyed to us in the meeting with the national office bearers in a most dictatorial fashion. We suddenly were told that this is going to happen, that we should disband. We were told that this 9-member committee will now indeed be appointed. And we were told that we cannot ask any questions. We cannot expect to be given the background information on why this happened. Surely any reasonable person can see that this is a most unreasonable approach, looking at the historical process in which MKMVA so diligently, and also in terms of the discipline of the African National Congress, participated in.
So, Mr. Niehaus, what were your responses in that meeting to the directive by the leadership of the ANC to start this process? Are you in? Are you not?
We have requested in that meeting for the leadership of the African National Congress to provide us with the necessary background information on why they have taken this drastically deviating decision. We were told that this meeting was not there for us to discuss anything, which was a shock to us, because the African National Congress is a democratic organization. Our culture, General Nyanda spoke about the culture of the ANC. Yes, there is a culture of recognizing the African National Congress as the mother body within all members of Umkhonto weSizwe. But there's also a culture of engagement. And when there are different points of view, of discussing and finding ways to meet each other. Unfortunately, as I said, in a very dictatorial fashion, the national chair of the African National Congress, Comrade Gwede Mantashe, simply said, we are not interested in any discussion. We are simply giving you an instruction. And when our president and deputy president asked for further engagement and wanted to ask further questions, the national chair just simply decided to terminate our participation in that virtual Zoom meeting. So this was a very abrupt end. It means to us that that meeting collapsed. Yeah. And it means to us that the meeting collapsed because of the rude and dictatorial behavior of the national chair of the African National Congress, which was so un-ANC that we're deeply shocked by it.
You say that you want meaningful engagement, but you yourself have been accused of being selective in terms of the issues that you support within the African National Congress. For argument's sake, you're said to support the retention of the Secretary General Ace Magashule when the organization is saying there is a case for him to answer. Are you still with us, Mr. Niehaus?
I'm very sorry, but your sound broke up, so I couldn't hear your question. I wonder if you could try to repeat the question so that I can answer.
Absolutely. I was just taking up on what you were saying, that you want meaningful engagement. And I wanted you to respond to the assertion by some parts of the party that you yourself, not necessarily as part of MKMVA, maybe as part of the RET forces, have been selective in the way that you back or not back discussions within the African National Congress. What is your response to that?
Are you talking about me, myself, as a personal comrade in the African National Congress or the organization of MKMVA?
How do we separate the two? We have media reports at the weekend of the president of the MKMVA.
I'm very
Mr.
sorry, I
Kebima
can't hear you. I don't know if it may be possible to reboot the Zoom
All right, I'm going to
meeting,
ask my producers.
at this stage, it's not possible for me to constructively engage.
Can you hear me now, Mr. Niehaus? All right, we're going to take a quick break to see what the problem is with our connection with Mr. Niehaus.